If Prem can pan and show you, these are the, anti-riot gear, police of the Nepal police that has been deployed here all across the, the parliament complex, across the neighboring area. And if we can move a little further, there's been massive stone pelting in this area. There are tires that have been burning, and hundreds of protesters who have converged here who say that this violent protest will continue. The youth are rising here in Nepal for a regime change and perhaps want a transparent and a government that is for the people and not an elitist government that actually remains in their elite towers and palaces and in fact does not bring any transparency. So the protest here only continues. We are continuously bringing you live visuals from this protest area. This is the main area just meters away from the Nepal Parliament. Prem is showing you that exact complex next to the barricade is the Nepal Parliament, where in fact the army has been deployed. In fact, more forces and ambulances you can see that are coming in this area, even as the APF, the anti-riot gear police has been stationed here. Every passing minute, the amount of people that are coming here to protest is only increasing. So very, dramatic visuals coming on your screens of the deployment of the APF, but also people who are demanding justice, who are demanding action, who are saying that there needs to be accountability at the highest level. There has been joblessness, there has been, complete economic downturn, and the responsibility is with the Prime Minister of the country.
It also seems, while you were speaking to those protesters, it also seems years of frustration building up with the political instability in Nepal. These are some live visuals coming in from clashes which are taking place between the protesters and the security forces in some parts of Kathmandu, the capital, where my colleague Aditya Rajkol is on the ground reporting from. Take a look at these as tear gas shells are being lobbed, tires being burnt on the other hand as well. Aditya, very quickly, let me ask you this. Is this entire protest, just be careful where you are standing, Aditya, be at a safe distance because it's a very volatile situation there as well. Let me also very quickly ask you, is this concentrated in Kathmandu? Is it spreading to other cities as well?
Well, yes, certainly. The focus could be on Kathmandu because this is the capital city, because the parliament is here. But this is spread all across from Pokhara to Birganj to other places where people are protesting. The youth are protesting. You can see tires are being burned, and through tires being burned, the entire area is being blockaded in many ways. The protesters are trying to show that the protest is not over. The resignation of the Home Minister is not enough. There need to be many measures taken by the government for accountability and for transparency. You can see this massive burning of the tires that is taking place, massive barricading that has been done by the protesters out here. Situation very grim, very volatile. Every passing minute outside the Nepal Parliament, there have been reports that there's been some planning of yet again intruding inside the Parliament very forcefully, and that's why you can see, apart from this, tires burning, etc., visuals that are coming in, there's massive deployment of the security forces also that has taken place. If I can move a little further towards the Nepal Parliament, you can see this massive barricade and you can see the security forces. I'll ask Prem to give you a round view of this entire location, from the barricades and the empty road right outside the Nepal Parliament to the deployment of the security forces on the entire stretch of this boundary wall in each and every corner. You can see the Nepal police, you can see the APF, and you can see the army and the paramilitary that is in full force out here. So clearly, very dramatic visuals of the way situation is right now. You can see slowly and steadily the protesters are inching closer towards the parliament. Live visuals coming on your screen only on NDTV, where you can see the protesters slowly and steadily trying to break the barricades, trying to actually move the APF personnel and the Nepal police a little further and entering the main chowk area right outside the Nepal Parliament. It seems that in the next few minutes, or perhaps in the next couple of hours, the move could be to enter the Parliament yet again, just like the visuals came in yesterday. There were a lot of killings, there were tear gas shells also fired, and that as a result, more than 500 people are in the hospital across Kathmandu. But here, right behind me, the clashes are not stopping. The anger is not stopping. The protesters are saying that they will continue to protest as much as possible till there is pressure to that level to the Nepal government that there is resignation at the highest level. That's the topmost demand right now. They're saying that international media is reporting on the social media ban, but that's not their main concern. Their main concern is transparency, accountability, economic measures, and also a regime change, a positive democratic regime change through the resignation of the Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli. The government, on the other hand, is defiant. They're saying that they will not resign, they will not succumb to the pressure of the protesters because there are anarchists who are part of this protest. But you can see now action live on your screen. Protesters have broken the barricade and are marching ahead towards the parliament. Live visuals on your screens of clashes erupting between the security forces and the forces are moving ahead towards the parliament. There are stones being pelted towards the security forces. We are trying to move a little back to avoid the clashes here, but the protesters are moving closer
vote to
towards
keep
the
your
parliament,
backs towards the security
of the
forces,
Prime
because
Minister's
you know that
resignation
there is stone pelting going on towards from the protesters as well.
Yes.
Very quickly, we are also getting information that the Prime Minister has called for an all-party meeting, and he has also called these students for dialogue.
That's right. In fact, the Prime Minister has called an all-party meeting. When I spoke to Prithvi Gurung, the Information Minister of Nepal, he had confirmed to me that the Prime Minister will be meeting all political parties. He also said that he has offered to meet the protesters and the leaders of the protest. But the big question here is that who is the leader of this protest? This is a sporadic protest that is happening, spontaneous protest that's happening. You can see the protesters climbing the main chalk area entirely. There are tires burning all across, and there are hundreds and hundreds of protesters holding the Nepalese flag, demanding justice, demanding accountability from the government, and saying that such corruption and such lackadaisical approach from the government cannot be tolerated when there are hundreds of people who are completely jobless and do not have any kind of measures in place from the Nepal government. So as of now, there's a complete wall that has been created by the Nepal police, and of course at the same time from the APF, the paramilitary police. They're trying to barricade the area where the entrance of the Nepal parliament really is. But you can also see the anger slowly and steadily from the back alleys and narrow alleys. The protesters have now reached the main area, which is just barely walking distance and merely meters away from the main entrance of the parliament. So we'll have to wait and watch whether there will be a breach yet again, because remember, while there is Nepal police and the paramilitary forces outside, inside the parliament, the army has been deployed. So right here, if I can show you, there's a barricade here. There is the paramilitary personnel that have been deployed here. But right there, if I can ask Prem to move with me here, I will actually take you to a location where we can possibly see the parliament, and just to give viewers a glimpse of what's happening in this entire location. You can see this is the entrance that I'm walking towards. This is the main entry of the Nepal parliament, and this is the area where there has been a barbed wire that has just been installed. You can see just behind this barbed wire is an entire force, which is the Nepal army that has been deployed inside the parliament. These are live exclusive visuals coming on your screen of barricading that's been done, the barbed wires. Behind the barbed wires, there is the Nepal army, and behind the Nepal army is the building of the Nepal parliament that was breached yesterday and stormed yesterday. So these are exclusive visuals of the measures that have been taken by the Nepal government and the Nepali security forces out here. But here you can see they have breached yet again. The protesters have breached the barricades. They are storming inside towards the main gate of the parliament. You can see slowly and steadily they are running and walking towards the main gate of the parliament. A lot of noise here, a lot of chant, a lot of slogans against the government. The barricades being broken here. You can see the way the police is not trying to stop them. The police is not trying to clash in such manner. We heard Prithvi Gurung in an interview to NDTV also earlier clarify that there will be no force used against the protesters. You can see the force also now running with the people towards the main gate of this particular area. So it seems that the clashes are imminent between the protesters and the Nepal police and the paramilitary force that has been deployed. People are breaking the barricades and running towards the main gate of the parliament, which is just about 40 or 50 steps from where I am standing right now. There is heavy measures that have been taken. There are three levels of security that have been deployed at the Nepal parliament. One is, of course, the Nepal police, second, the paramilitary, and third is the Nepal army, which is inside the premises of the Nepal parliament. So very dramatic visuals, not just from Kathmandu, from all across Nepal, where we can see, visuals of some may. Now tear gas has been fired at the protesters. Here we are just walking towards the main gate of the parliament. I'll ask Prem to pan and show you these visuals. Let's stay with these visuals of the main gate of parliament. Tear gas is being fired towards the protesters. The people are trying to safeguard the main gate of the Nepal parliament. We'll try to maintain a safe distance away from the tear gas shells in this area, because remember, there were a lot of injuries yesterday from the tear gas shells that were fired also, and in that entire process a 12-year-old also passed away with serious injuries. So this is the main gate of the Nepal parliament. You can see the paramilitary forces that have been deployed here with multiple levels of barricading and gates. And then there are people on the other side. People are actually taking cover of barricades, and you can see live visuals of how tear gas shells are being fired. Affected in this entire area, but steadily evolving. You can see how tear gas is being fired towards the protesters who are slowly and steadily trying the Nepal parliament. This is the same area where taken place yesterday. A lot of killing of violence reported yesterday from here, but you can see tear gas now, which was fired at the protesters, has been fired back by the people towards the paramilitary forces. So there's a little difficulty that the forces are facing as well. But just to give you a the second day of the massive protests that are happening, and you're getting live coverage here on NDTV on the latest developments. If we can show you, that's the barricade where people are taking cover. Behind these barricades, tear gas shells being fired to stop the people from charging towards the security forces at the main gate. You can see the main gate of the parliament that is slowly being covered by more security forces, and things are getting volatile out here. You can see live visuals of how barricades, layers of security of paramilitary is being put out here to somehow create a situation. There is that happens today, but we'll have to wait and watch how things unfold. Stones are now being thrown, so I'll ask my forces out here. So these are live visuals coming on your screen. Second straight day of deadly protests here in Kathmandu outside the Nepal parliament. Tear gas shelling has begun towards the protesters. They're trying to calm tempers, but a very, very volatile situation out here, Ankit, and we are keeping very close watch of the events that are happening. A lot of national and international media presence as well, but around 10 to 15 rounds of tear gas shells have been now put against people who are protesting here. Thousands of youth who have it's likely that increase. So now barricades being brought in, the last layer of barricade being broken. People are taking cover behind it. They're trying their best to enter the parliament and perhaps do some ransacking inside the parliament. We saw a lot of rioting inside the parliament yesterday as well. But these live visuals from outside the clashes that are erupting, and people are not going to relent. They are saying that even if the violence continues, they will continue to protest and try to breach the parliament and storm the parliament yet again. Second straight day inside the parliament until there is a resolution, until there are talks, until there is some kind of a situation where the security forces and the political masters really take a call of a consensus of this kind of a resignation plan. Seems unlikely at this stage. There are ambulances and emergency vehicles doing rounds in this area, but the paramilitary forces and the are trying their best to control the situation. So barricades.
Visuals coming in. There you can see visuals coming in from Kathmandu. It's the second day of violence. You just heard Aditya, they're reporting from the ground. And once again, there has been stone pelting as there is anger on the streets now. These are fresh protests that are taking place, and they've erupted in several parts of the country. This comes a day after the government there revoked the ban on social media. But these protests are a lot more to do with than just the ban on social media that was brought in by the Nepal government. It's to do also with corruption and the youth who view the corruption by those in power, by those in political positions, and it's that anger really that is erupting on the ground. And this time, the youth saying that they want the Prime Minister, KP Sharma Oli, to resign, and that is the demand. Remember, already you've had two ministers in the government resign over the violence yesterday, in which 19 people were killed in the clashes that took place as the youth marched towards the parliament. And we even saw vandalism taking place in the parliament. Curfew was also imposed in several of these areas to prevent any more violence. The ban on social media was also revoked. However, the youth, they're not having it, and they are saying that they will continue to protest till the Prime Minister resigns. They've also been today targeting of the houses of some of the leaders there in Nepal, and these protests are not just in Kathmandu. In fact, in other parts of the country as well, in other towns, there have been reports of protests and violence. So this is the second day of chaos that we're seeing in Nepal. The Indian government, of course, watching all these scenes very, very closely. Indians who are there in Nepal have been, warned to stay extremely cautious. But there you can see the visuals of stone pelting that is taking place as the youth again out on the streets protesting. Curfew, as we said, was imposed in several parts of the country, including in Kathmandu. But demonstrators again taking to the streets, pelting stones, marching as well for a second day. And you can see the security forces there as well, especially near the parliament area, trying to ensure that there is protection and that things don't get out of hand, given that curfew has been imposed. However, clearly the youth coming out and pelting stones. In fact, as we said, two ministers of the Oli government also resigned, and the demonstrators are now asking and demanding the Prime Minister's dismissal. They've vandalized and homes of some of the leaders. There you can see visuals of the curfew and in place. So as you can see, many of the streets are absolutely empty and peaceful, but in some parts we have seen the youth coming out, especially trying to go towards the parliament and lobbying stones and bricks, etc., towards the police. And so once again, it's the second day that we're seeing that there is stone pelting, there's arson as well. We saw tires being lit on the road, and again clashes taking place. So the unrest there in Nepal intensifying. Now this unrest yesterday we saw those massive protests and march, which was ostensibly over the ban on social media platforms. However, it was also a march against corruption, something that had been planned for earlier on. But however, after the Nepalese government banned social media platforms, it really ignited the anger on the street and led to this protest. It was on social media that a lot of the reports regarding corruption were also being shared. Remember that just before these protests erupted, one of the trends on social media was about Nepo kids. These are children of rich and powerful people in Nepal who have very lavish lifestyles, and it was being talked about, and the trend was pointing out how they could have only arrived at this level of wealth due to corruption and comparisons with the life of common Nepalese person, and so that is something that was really igniting a lot of anger among the youth, and that is what we saw burst on the streets yesterday as there was this massive protest march towards the parliament, which was then blocked by the police. The army was out on the streets. The Nepalese parliament was also vandalized. There was firing, and towards the midday, the news came out that at least 19 people had been killed in the violence. Many of the young people are losing their lives in hospital where they had been taken after they were injured. The Prime Minister has also expressed his remorse at the number of people who died, and he has spoken about it. However, the protesters out on the streets again for a second day, this time demanding that the Prime Minister step down, also targeting the homes of some of the leaders there. In fact, former Prime Minister Pushpa Kamal Dahal, who is known popularly as Prachanda, his home was also targeted by the protesting youth. So if you're just joining in, it is the second day of unrest in Nepal, in Kathmandu. While curfew is in place, we have seen that the youth there coming out onto the streets and pelting stones at the police. There you can see the army, the police out on the streets to maintain calm. The youth also targeting the homes of several leaders. Even the former Prime Minister Prachanda, his home was targeted, and already 3 ministers have resigned, in fact, over the violence and how things got out of hand. The fact that 19 people lost their lives in this violence. So it is the second day of protests as well as curfew. Curfew is in place in Kathmandu as well as several other places. But there you can see these visuals from a little while ago of the people coming out onto the streets, throwing those stones, pelting the stones towards security forces. And you could see the police also fleeing from there. So Nepal unrest there intensifying. There is tension. Even if you're seeing these visuals of empty streets, there is palpable tension on the ground, which is what our reporters there, Sikta Dev and Aditya, have been reporting about. A lot of anger among the youth, and this protest is not just about the ban on social media. Remember, that ban has been revoked. In fact, the Nepalese government yesterday evening made the decision that they were going to lift the ban on social media after these protests, which are called the Gen Z protests. That's what they call themselves as well. That's how it was being highlighted on social media, where directions were also being given to gather for all the youth. Ministers have resigned after 19 people were killed in clashes with the police after these protests turned violent. As we said, 3 ministers have resigned. Also, the cabinet formed an investigation committee to look into the violence, and 15 days given to prepare that report. But just take a look at these scenes from Kathmandu, where it's a second day of violence and unrest on the streets. You can see the crowds actually chasing the policemen, the security forces there, pelting them with stones. They've had to retreat there, given the number of people who have come out in this particular area where these scenes are taking place. However, largely there is curfew, most people, remaining indoors. Well, let's go across to Aditya, who joins us from Kathmandu. Aditya, tell us what is happening there around you. Once again, unrest taking place. We're seeing these visuals of stone pelting and the security forces having to, in fact, retreat in the face of the stone pelting.
Well, that's right. In several locations around the Nepal parliament, where NDTV has been continuously reporting, the security forces had to retreat. We are standing right outside the main gate of the Nepal parliament, where you can see the barricades have been
All right, we will try and reconnect there with Aditya, and it is a very, as you can see, tense situation there on the ground. Security forces out on the street trying to maintain calm. Remember, curfew has been called. However, the youth again taking to the street in a protest, in anger. This protest is over corruption, with many of the youth perceiving that it is the politicians who are corrupt, and that many of their the benefits are not actually reaching them. And this anger really erupted after the ban on those social media platforms. This protest that took place yesterday had already been planned against corruption, but with the ban on social media platforms, that really ignited a lot of the anger. And yesterday we saw massive crowds on the streets marching towards Parliament. In fact, even at Parliament, they vandalized, parts of the building there, and smashed windows were to be seen. There were clashes with the security forces, and 19 people lost their lives. So a lot of anger over that. 3 ministers have, however, resigned. The Prime Minister has also expressed his how upset he is over the loss of lives. However, the youth again taking to the streets and demanding the Prime Minister resign. Let's go across to Aditya. Aditya, over to you. Tell us what's happening. All right, we will try and connect with Aditya there, but it's the second day of unrest that is taking place in Nepal with the youth once again taking to the street. This despite the fact that curfew has been imposed in many of the areas, and it's not just in Kathmandu. In fact, in other towns as well, there are reports of anger and violence taking place. There is also targeting of the homes of some of the political leaders. The former Prime Minister Prachanda, his home too was targeted. Rumors also doing the rounds of some leaders perhaps fleeing from Nepal, but none of those have been confirmed. Remember, this is a time when there's a lot of rumors and speculation that do the rounds. But protesters today are taking to the streets, breaking barriers, pelting stones at security forces who are being forced to retreat. As you can see in these visuals, given the number of people there, taking them on and pelting them with stones. A curfew has been called in Kathmandu and in other parts of Nepal.